Hello and welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Nice. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. We are excited to talk about water conservation and gray water. Hal, good to see you. Thanks for that reminder on that link. For folks who are joining us, we're going to get started in just a minute or two, but if you can, maybe drop in the chat where you're joining us from or something you're excited to learn about today. Hal from Oakland. Happy to have you here, Hal.
I love it. Tracy and Aaron say they're in Santa Rosa and just want to learn how to reuse as much water as possible, which is so important right now. Thanks for being here. We have Kelly and Chris Cox joining us.
Juan from Runner Park. Looking forward to learning about the Laundry-to-Landscape. Barry from 6th Street in Petaluma, nearby. Hello, Barry. Hey, Kelly. All right, we're going to give it just another minute. The meeting format is really fun. It's such a pleasure to be able to see people's faces and familiar faces, and I'll be excited to connect further after the presentation. Leslie from Sebastopol, being a nature lover and honoring her resources. Love that, Leslie. Thank you.
Here comes Kevin. For those of you who are just rolling in, if in the chat box, you can say where you're visiting from today and something you're excited to learn about. We would love to hear from you. And make sure you send that chat to everyone too, and not just Liz and I. Okay, Liz, what do you say? Should we get started?
I'm going to say let's get started.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us. My name is Serena. I'm a programs coordinator at Daily Acts, and I am joined by Liz today. She'll be doing most of the presenting, and she's a senior programs coordinator at Daily Acts. And we are so excited to see your excitement about implementing gray water in laundry-to-landscape systems this summer. As we all know, drought has been announced in Sonoma County, so it's more important than ever that we all do our part to save water wherever we can. And you guys just showing up here today shows your guys' enthusiasm and commitment to that, so we are very grateful for you. We're also just so happy that we could be here today. Thanks to our partner, the City of Petaluma, for supporting this workshop in this monthly office hours format. So before we dive in today, I want to tell you all a little bit about Daily Acts and who we are and what we do. So Daily Acts is a holistic education nonprofit that takes a heart-centered approach to inspiring transformative actions that create connected, equitable, and climate resilient communities. We truly believe in the power of our daily actions to reconnect people to self, to community, and to place, which helps heal our local society and our planet. Now, you might be wondering, what does that actually mean? So our holistic approach to addressing the current needs starts in the soil and swells into culture and policy change. We have sustainability programs that historically focused on landscape transformation starting way back in 2009 by sheet mulching thirsty lawns and turning them into water-wise habitat providing gardens. Our sustainability programs today give people the skills, tools and resources to conserve resources while growing an abundance of food, habitat, and community. Because we really believe that change happens through collaboration, we invest in strengthening leadership. Our Leadership Institute for Just and Resilient Communities is a 10-month program that trains leaders to step up to the many challenges our community faces today while embracing the complexity of the interconnected systems at play. We are also the home to the Environmental Health Network that provides education and resources to our frontline agricultural workers in Sonoma County. And just last year, we adopted the amazing Eco to School program that inspires youth to take immediate climate action. And we are actually joined today by Kevin Anderson, who's our programs coordinator for that program. We foster networks and alliances while partnering with municipalities here in Sonoma County and beyond. And we're always trying to ignite and inspire change in our community through action campaigns that we host really almost every year. And we do all of this through practicing personal ecology because we really do believe that transforming the world begins with transforming ourselves. I hope that gives you guys a little idea of what we do here at Daily Acts. So before we get started, I also just wanted to go over a little bit of Zoom meeting etiquette. I'm sure you guys are all professional Zoomers at this point in the game, but still just wanted to go over a few tips and tools. So we made this a meeting instead of a webinar today because we're just really excited to see your faces, but please keep your microphone on mute during the presentation and when you aren't speaking. If a question arises during Liz's presentation, please use the chat box. If something seems super relevant and I think it should be answered right on the spot, I'll definitely let Liz know. But all other questions will be saved for our discussion after the presentation. And just so you guys know, this presentation is only going to go for like 15, 20 minutes maximum, and then we're just going to have all the rest of the time to answer your questions and really dig into this Graywater conversation. Also, we are currently recording this presentation, and we'd like to post a YouTube channel afterwards. If anyone doesn't feel comfortable being recorded, feel free to keep your camera off or feel free to reach out to me and I can make sure that you are included in the recording. And with that being said, really quick too. So thanks to the city of Petaluma. We are so grateful for their support in hosting these workshops. We just wanted to make sure, especially as Petaluma residents, you're all aware of the amazing resources they have to offer. So they have their Mulch Madness program. You can find it on their website at thecityofpetaluma.org/water conservation. You'll actually find the Mulch Madness program with my photo on it. But there's free sheet mulch materials and a consultation with Daily Acts if you qualify for their Mulch Madness program. Just so you know, you do have to have a minimum of 500 square feet of irrigated turf lawn to apply for it, and either be a homeowner, a business owner, or have like permission from the person you're renting from to participate in this program, but it's definitely worth looking into. Also, they have tons of free water conservation devices and additional rebates available. So really, we just encourage you to go ahead and take a look at their website, which we'll definitely send to you in our follow-up email after this conversation. And now, without further ado, I'm happy to introduce Liz, who will be taking over the rest of the presentation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that introduction, Serena. And to piggyback on the previous slide for rebates, even if you are not a City of Petaluma water customer, I would highly recommend all of you to check out your city or town website to see what sort of incentive programs there are and how your own community is supporting you to take action and conserve resources, because I'm sure there are many ways that other towns are trying to empower our community. And so without any further ado, I want to emphasize that at the heart of our Daily Acts organization is the belief that we all have the ability to be the change that we wish to see in the world, and that every single choice that we make matters every day. And so I can't emphasize this enough, and I will continue to say it throughout the presentation, but thank you all for being here tonight and showing interest in learning about how we can better manage our water resources. So the agenda for today is I'm going to be giving a brief overview about what Graywater actually is. I'm going to talk about a few different system components and how we can keep to code and different regulations, and then a few different design considerations and behavioral changes that are needed in order to adopt a Graywater system. So first, let's start about talking about water. I'm sure many of us are aware that about 71% of Earth's surface is actually made up of water. However, actually less than 1% of Earth's water supply is available and fresh for human consumption. So I want to just take this moment to remind folks that there is absolutely no new water on this planet. Our water cycle has been moving water for billions of years, And I really want to hit home that water is a finite resource, meaning what we have is what we've got, and that's all we've got. And I think sometimes that can actually be a little bit hard to remember, because I assume all of us here have the great privilege to turn on the tap and have a seemingly endless supply of water. But in reality, that water is scarce and that water is limited. Today, we are actually experiencing our second consecutive dry year, and our rainfall and water storage amounts are well below average. So now more than ever, it is time for our communities to take action and embrace an opportunity to conserve and reuse every single drop of water that we can. I think oftentimes when we're communicating with folks, people might be hearing the word conservation and possibly associating it with sacrifice. You know, do less, spend less, use less. But at Daily Acts and with all of our education programs, we're really trying to emphasize and discuss how we can be using less while also creating so much more. And I think Graywater is the perfect opportunity to actually shift our perspective and get creative when it comes to reusing a resource that we're already paying for. So again, I'm really excited that you all are here this afternoon, and I'm eager and inspired to be going on this water conservation journey together. So what even is Graywater? Well, Graywater is going to be the wastewater that is generated from our bathroom sinks, our showers, our tubs, and our washing machines. And when I'm talking about laundry-to-landscape graywater systems, we're referring to the water that is being produced from a laundry machine and then being redirected to a landscape. Graywater is not any water that has come into contact with feces from the toilet or from diapers, or any water that has come into contact with grease, which could potentially be coming from your dishwasher or your kitchen sink. So just to reiterate, for today's purpose and this brief presentation, I am only going to be focusing on a laundry-to-landscape graywater system, and that is because this is the most do-it-yourself option. It does not require any permitting. For the most part, these systems can actually be installed for less than $150. And with the proper tools, you can actually genuinely do it yourself. For any other system, for example, the shower to flower or a branch drain system, you are going to need to be accessing your plumbing, and it's going to require a lot more of intricate design and thought process, and most likely going to require a plumber and a permit. So again, focusing on the laundry-to-landscape system. Alrighty, so what we're looking at here is going to be the indoor components of your laundry-to-landscape graywater system. The way that this works is your washing machine has a pump that pumps water through this discharge hose and then directs it into your sewer or your septic. So when you're installing a graywater system, a laundry-to-landscape graywater system, you're actually intercepting the movement of this water with this three-way brass valve. And this brass valve is what's going to control the flow of the system and allow you to determine if the water is going to go to your sewer or if it's going to go to your landscape. Also in this photo, you're going to see this anti-siphon valve. This anti-siphon valve is what allows water to flow in only one direction and will prevent water from actually coming back up and being siphoned back up through your pipes. So this component is very necessary, but it does not necessarily need to be indoors. I've seen plenty of systems where this component is actually on the outdoors as well. It's just going to be dependent on your space. All of the components in the indoor system are going to be connected with 1-inch PVC and 1-inch PVC couplers and connectors. And when we are designing and installing a system, we usually encourage that folks mount this three-way brass valve either on a piece of wood that is secured to your studs, or making sure that these brackets are secured to studs in your wall. And that is solely for optimal security every time you need to move that lever. So California Plumbing Code also requires that the indoor component of your system is very clearly labeled to be able to determine when the lever is in either the up or the down position, that you know which way that water is flowing. So that is California Plumbing Code, but it also is just best practice in case you have a renter, need to sell your home, have house guests. You want to be sure that you know where that water is going. The California Plumbing Code also does require that you have a graywater manual either in the vicinity, or I'm not sure if they explicitly say within 5 feet, but you want to have a manual right next to your laundry system so that you are aware of all of the ins and outs of your graywater system. Okay, so what we're looking at here is going to be the transition from the indoor components to the outdoor components. So when we're indoors, again, we're using all 1-inch PVC. And then when we transition to the outdoor section, we're going to be transitioning to 1-inch high density polyethylene tubing, otherwise known as HDPE or polytubing. This upper left-hand image shows a threaded union. And this is the device that actually connects the two materials together. And this is the location of your system that you would use to flush out and clean your irrigation zone. The way that that happens is you simply unscrew that threaded union and you put a hose up to this male adapter, and then you just flush out any sort of lint or gunk buildup that might be in your system. And from my experience and folks that we have worked with in the past, people are only doing this about once a year, but things do vary depending on the amount of laundry that you are doing. The rest of these images highlight different ways that you can get your piping to the area that you actually want to irrigate. So we have an example of cutting through concrete, cutting under concrete, but also you have the ability to run PVC pipe along a building in order to get to the zone that you want to irrigate. So the indoor component of a system is usually what is actually pretty straightforward. And the outdoor section is what usually requires the most design and certainly the most labor. So California Plumbing Code also enforces a number of different setbacks that you need to make sure you're following in order to be confident that the water that you are discharging is being sent off into the landscape in a safe way. So a few setbacks to highlight here. You need to be sure that your gray water is being discharged at least 2 feet from a building, 1.5 feet from property lines, 100 feet from a well or a creek, at least 5 feet from a septic tank, 4 feet from a leach field, and at least 3 feet above your groundwater table.
Hey Liz, we have a really quick question. It's probably going to be a yes or a no from you, but you did mention that people are going to want to have a manual nearby in the indoor component area. Do you know where people could get that manual from?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So Dailyx actually houses a manual, a Graywater master handout manual that we actually are going to send in this follow-up email. I am making a total assumption here, but I do think that the California Plumbing online version has a link to a manual that is downloadable and printable. But again, we will be sending out a resource, and if anybody here is watching this recording, reach out to us and we can send you that resource so that you can be sure that you know what is happening with your gray water system. That's a great question. Thank you for clarifying. Alrighty, so when you begin to think about your outdoor design, you're going to want to first determine how much water you're actually producing and what you want to irrigate. I'm not sure if I mentioned this already, but for the sake of this brief presentation, I'm not going to go into detail about how you actually size your basins and your irrigation field, but just at a very high level, it involves determining how much water your laundry machine produces, how many loads in a week you do, and then determining what plants you want to irrigate and their water requirements. You also need to consider your soil type, and within that master handout that we are going to share as a resource, it's going to go into great detail about what the calculations you need to do and what numbers to plug in. And then it also has a wonderful graphic that indicates the soil absorption rates for different types of soil that you might encounter. A few other things to consider when you are designing your outdoor system is going to be the topography of your landscape. Do you have a slope uphill? Do you have a slope downhill? That's really going to dictate how far you can actually run your irrigation. The pump within your laundry machine can usually pump water up to about 100 feet on a level surface, but any further than that, and if you need to go uphill, you do put the pump of your laundry machine at risk of failing or being overworked. So what we're looking at here is an example and an overview of what the outdoor design can look like. So as I previously mentioned, the outdoor component is mostly going to be 1-inch poly tubing, which is the tubing right here. And it is not until you get to the zone that you wish to irrigate that you then transition to 1/2-inch poly tubing. So again, here we have the 1-inch poly tubing, we have a T, and then we have 1/2-inch poly tubing that takes you to the area that you wish to irrigate. What you'll also notice here is we have a mulch basin, and usually at the end of that 1/2-inch poly pipe, you will have a ball valve. This ball valve is what is going to allow you to direct the flow and either increase or decrease the flow and the rate at which water comes out. And you'll also see this little U shape here is going to be what we call your mulch basin. We have the mulch basin in order to slow spread and sink water on the site that you wish to irrigate. So mulch basins in just a little bit more detail. This is what we're going to be looking at. So in the previous image, this is our 1/2-inch pipe. Here is our mulch shield, and this is a zoomed in photo of that mulch basin. You are going to want to be sure that your irrigation outlet, meaning this area, I guess you would actually call this the inlet and then the outlet. You want to make sure that this is at least 2 inches below the surface, and that actually also is California Plumbing Code. And then you're going to want to protect that inlet and outlet, aka where the water is coming, with something called a mulch shield, or you can call it a valve box. I've also seen people get really creative and use a 1-gallon planting container. You just want to make sure that that water is protected. And you're also going to want to keep this basin more or less empty, meaning you're not going to want to fill it all of the way with mulch, mainly because you want to have a bit of an air gap to ensure that weeds and roots do not actually grow up and into your pipe. Oh, it's also worth noting that this example of a mulch basin and this 1/2-inch piping does not include the ball valve that I was mentioning earlier. And that is because this is actually an example of the end of a line. And we usually do not put a ball valve on the end of the line because we want all of the remaining water to be able to easily flow out and drain your system every time you're doing a bit of laundry. And again, to reiterate, these mulch basins, what I'm referring to is once you do your calculation of how much water you're producing and your plant requirements, that is what's going to determine the size of the mulch basin that you are digging. And usually we're digging our mulch basins in kind of like a U shape, like I highlighted in this previous photo, this U shape, and you're putting it close enough to the plant that you want to plant that when you water and this mulch is moving water into that U shape, the roots of the plant are going to be able to be fed by that water. So again, this mulch basin is what is going to be determined by your water production calculation, which we will be sending in our follow-up resources. And that resource highlights these calculations in great detail. And if folks are going through those calculations on your own, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'm happy to help you any way that I can. So coming back to chapter 16 of the Plumbing Code, here are all of the different setbacks and requirements for a laundry-to-landscape gray water system. A few points worth mentioning in this presentation is that gray water cannot pool, pond, or remain stored, so you cannot put it in any sort of water tank. Gray water must absolutely have a way to be rediverted to your sewer or septic, so that's going to be that 3-way brass valve that we highlighted earlier. And gray water must remain on the site at which it was generated. Plant selection. So plant selection is a really fun opportunity to get creative and get excited about gardening. In general, larger plants such as trees, bushes, and perennials are going to be much easier to irrigate with gray water versus smaller plants. It is actually against code to water lawns with gray water. That is assuming that you're trying to plumb gray water into your sprinklers, and that is against code. You cannot do that. You're also not going to want to be watering any sort of potted plants or raised beds, because if you think about the amount of water that you're producing at once, those systems are very likely to flood and they're not going to do well. So realistically, you're going to want to be finding plants that don't mind a good amount of water at once, but also maybe don't mind less frequent watering depending on how often you are doing your laundry. An additional code requirement that I didn't mention is that gray water actually cannot come in contact with any food whatsoever, and it cannot be used for root crops. However, it is an amazing resource for fruit trees. So a few food producing perennials that totally thrive on gray water include edible shrubs and vines such as raspberries, thimbleberries, blackberries, currants, elderberries, passion fruit, kiwi, grapes, hops, a number of different beautiful perennials and food producing crops. And I personally have had really great success watering my apple trees as well as my artichokes and pomegranates with Graywater. Another thing to actually consider is if you do have any established plants, if they're already being irrigated or have been irrigated, Graywater would be a reasonable option for them, but you do not want to use Graywater on any sort of established plant that is not already being irrigated, just because you put that plant at risk of shock. Again, because you are distributing a lot of water at once. So graywater systems do require some level of behavioral change in order to make sure that your plants and your soil remain healthy. So when you're choosing soaps for your system, you're going to want to try to avoid sodium, chlorine, or boron. Those are going to be the three biggest ingredients that plants absolutely want nothing to do with, and it's going to ultimately really affect and harm your soil health. If you need to use any sort of bleach or wash your reusable diapers, that's where you utilize that option to turn your system and redivert that water back to your septic or your sewer. And for folks who are possibly using a water softener, I think most people usually are using a sodium-based softener because they are a little bit more accessible and cheaper, but you can still use a graywater system with a water softener. You just need to be sure that you are switching to potassium-based softeners versus sodium. Again, sodium is going to be that element that the plants don't want, your soil really doesn't want, and potassium is an amazing alternative, and it actually is something that plants and soil require in order to be healthy and thrive. So is Graywater for you? These are just going to be a few bullet points that are going to make a laundry to landscape system a lot easier or potentially a lot more difficult for you. So if your washing machine is on an external facing wall or you have an accessible crawl space, a laundry to landscape system is going to be really plug and play and easier for you to design and install. Additionally, if you intend to irrigate fruit trees or ornamental trees or even large shrubs, and especially if your landscape is within 100 feet, Graywater, a laundry to landscape Graywater is an excellent solution for you. It's going to become a little bit more challenging if your washing machine is on a slab and in the center of your house, or is upstairs and in the center of your house. It's not going to work for you if you are not willing to change to a potassium-based water softener. Again, you cannot irrigate your lawn. And unfortunately, if your garden is uphill or more than 100 feet from the source of that Graywater, it's going to be a little bit more challenging and possibly not feasible for you to use a laundry to landscape Graywater system. That certainly doesn't mean that you don't have any other options for Graywater, but for a laundry system, it's not going to work. Another element of the California Plumbing Code, or another requirement rather, is that you cannot have an additional pump to move your Graywater. So Graywater can only be moved from the pump in your laundry machine, which again can, for the most part, only move about 100 feet. Gray is the new green. There are so many benefits to irrigating with Graywater. And like I mentioned before, it is just an amazing opportunity to reuse a resource that you are already paying for. And it is an amazing opportunity right now to be able to have a healthy garden, even during a drought. One of the big compelling things for me that makes me want Graywater, aside from being able to irrigate and reuse, is that it reduces the demand of my septic system. So that might be something that gets folks in more rural areas really interested in this resource. And this goes for the shower to flower system as well. So with that, that's going to wrap up my very brief presentation. We've got a few more slides and Serena's going to highlight those. I'm sure you all have plenty of questions and curiosity, and I'm excited to be able to open up the rest of this meeting for you all, but hang tight. We've got just a couple more slides.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for hanging tight, guys. Let's get to it so we can get to those questions. So first of all, you're all here to learn about Graywater, and we wanted to make you guys aware that we have our very first in-person tour coming up on June 19th, which is a Saturday. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and we're going to be hopping around some Petaluma houses, checking out their awesome Graywater system. So if you're interested in implementing it in your own landscape, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to see these systems working in person, to ask your questions to the people who've already implemented these systems, and really just get some inspiration for what your garden could look like if you implement these really cool systems. So we invite you to sign up for this event. There are only 20 tickets available as we're still trying to implement social distancing. So if you want to join the tour, make sure you sign up ASAP. And then also, this is the second event I wanted to let you guys know about. Come hear the inspiring stories of 7 individuals from different walks of life who, when confronted with challenges as daunting as climate change or social inequity, discovered the hero within and took action. Daily Acts is super proud to be a part of the Another World is Possible coalition to put on this incredible event, looking at 7 awesome Sonoma County individuals who are really doing the most to be the change they want to see in the world. So we hope you'll join us to honor these heroes that are among us. And then also, we are hiring. Liz and I are super excited to announce that we are hiring specifically for our team for programs coordinator, specifically a bilingual programs coordinator. So if you know anybody who you think would be an awesome fit for the Daily Acts team, who loves to get their hands dirty and loves to interact with people, we'd be super excited to see their application. And we're accepting those until June 22nd. So thanks for helping us spread the word. And then, as always, a very special thank you to all of our incredible sponsors. You know, we love these guys. We couldn't do our work without them. And if you have the opportunity to support one of these awesome businesses or organizations, we definitely encourage you to do so. And then with that being said, Liz's email is right there. And as always, you know, as a nonprofit organization, we are fueled by good vibes, but a donation here and there certainly never hurts. So if you're feeling compelled to donate today, it's dailyacts.org/donate. And with that being said, let's hop into some of your guys' questions. So very excited to see so many faces today. I definitely encourage you all to turn on your cameras if you feel comfortable doing so. I think in moving forward with questions, since there is quite a few of us here today, I'll have you guys use at the bottom of your screen, there's a thing that says reactions. So you could raise your hand and then I will call on you to unmute yourself just so we're not all talking over each other. So does anyone want to start us off? Or you could raise your hand like in person too. Cool, Leslie, go ahead and start us off.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I want to ask about the placement of my washing machine and whether it would work. So it's in the garage, but it's not on an external wall of the house. It's sort of on the wall that faces my kitchen. And the good news is it's, you know, in the garage. So, you know, a car's length, then I hit the driveway and then another car length. I've got lots of garden area and it's downhill.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that's such a great question, Leslie. Thank you. So it is not required that your laundry machine is on an external facing wall. All that means is you're going to need to run a little bit of extra piping in order to get to the outside, which is totally doable. And then even then you have a little bit of creative freedom to decide where do you actually want to run that PVC piping, where is most out of the way for you and aesthetically pleasing for you. So you can absolutely still utilize Graywater in a laundry-to-landscape system.
Thank you. And will you be offering people locally today or in an email if we want to hire someone to help us do it?
That is a really great question, Leslie. Yeah, thank you again. So we do have a contractors referrals list, which we actually probably need to be connecting with the folks to make sure that they are still doing residential landscapes. But we do have a resource, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I'll make note right now to include that. We'll include our contractor referrals list. And if you give us a call, we can make some personal connections. I am going to be communicating with Laura Allen, who is a co-founder of Graywater Action, an absolutely phenomenal individual and resource. And I'm going to be talking to her about folks that she knows in the Sonoma County area who are certified to install Graywater.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. And in the same vein of contractors and getting installed, I would recommend folks check out Quell. I'll write that in the chat right now. Quell stands for Qualified Water Efficient Landscaper or Landscaping. And Quell is a resource where you can actually look up a map of certified contractors from graywater to rainwater to irrigation. It's a resource that I would highly recommend and we can include as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Liz, I'm keeping a list of all the resources to include too.
Oh, love you, Serena. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Juan, do you want to go ahead and go next?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing all this information. It's really positive. Thank you. I just want to circle back on the lawn. I know you said it's not feasible, but you mentioned that it wouldn't work if it's connected to your irrigation system. I've seen companies like Aquafire, sorry, that's my 4-month-old, that have these tubes, basically like the PVC tubes that you were showing, but they just go under the lawn, not that deep, and they have small holes, I guess, for the irrigation. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but would that work, or it's like, you know, there's nothing to do with lawn?
I think I can answer that.
What's up?
I said I think I can answer that unless you know.
No, take it.
So Juan, I'm thinking with a system like that, and I've seen similar things before too, and it's kind of trying to create a way to drip irrigate a lawn instead of do sprinklers, right, as a means of saving water. But most of those systems require having a certain amount of pressure for a system to run, even just for water to escape through those small holes, versus a gray water system just has like, you know, those big outlets for water to flow through, because you don't have like pressure really pumping a system, right? Like your laundry machine has a pump that's going to be pushing the water out, but that's nothing compared to like, you know, the 90 PSI it takes to run a sprinkler system, or 40 PSI it takes to run a drip irrigation system. So my initial response to that wants to say like, no, I don't think that's still possible, but we'll definitely look into it and get back to you on that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry. Then their name is Aquafire. I think my wife is yours correct. Aquafire. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah. Thank you, and Serena, thank you for that response. Another concern that I would have would, I don't know the size of those emitters, but I would be concerned that they would potentially get clogged as well.
Yeah, a lot going on with the laundry water. Okay, next up we have Tracy and Aaron.
We have to.
I unmuted us.
Unmuted.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm just wondering if there's like a hardware conversion kit that's available or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're actually currently working with the City of Petaluma and the Town of Windsor to be able to compile these conversion kits so that they can be accessible for people who have attended workshops and are interested in installing. So all that to say, if you go to a hardware store, there are no pre-assembled kits that are already developed. However, in this master handout that we're going to share, it lists out very clearly every single piece that you need for the indoor and the outdoor component. So hopefully that's helpful for you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and of course, like if you have any questions that arise after seeing that manual too, like definitely feel free to reach out to us about that too. We're always happy to help clarify things.
Absolutely.
Good.
Okay, our next question is from Callie Cox.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that at Friedman's, they do have a setup showing you the setup that you can get with a valve and everything. It's all set up in the Petaluma Friedman's. So
Really?
I think they sell all the parts, and you know they have it all together there. You can see it all. So
Oh, that's fantastic.
So that's at the Petaluma Friedman's.
That's a great resource. Thank you.
Chris.
Reminds me, I want to do that. So.
Nice.
Liz, we had a.
And what about one more thing?
Go for
You're
it.
good.
Water flowing. Once it's pumped, I know the washing machine has a pump in it, but once that gets down, if you level everything out with a slope, that can basically go farther if it's going downhill.
Absolutely.
Because the water is going to flow downhill. So you can go a little bit further than 100 feet if
Absolutely.
you're sloping down.
Yeah, totally accurate. If you've got a slope that goes down, that is gravity is working in your favor there, and you can get quite a bit further actually.
Okay.
Nice.
Thanks.
Chris.
Yeah, Chris, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. We love doing this format for that reason. Sometimes there's people who know more than we do, so we love getting your input.
Absolutely.
Okay, Liz, we did have a question in our messages from Anissa. She asked if we need the filter to avoid microplastic from laundering polyester clothes going into our landscapes.
That's an interesting question, and I appreciate it, and I wish I had a better answer. I guess I would say my initial thought is if you have polyester clothing, which I think many people do, and you'd be concerned about the landscape, sending that back to your sewer or your septic. I'm not familiar with any sort of filters that can be applied to like the outflow of this water. but that's totally a possibility. And that's something that I just don't have the answer to right now. Unfortunately, I would say that you would be seeing the microplastics in your outlet basin. So I guess in that sense, at least the plastic would be contained. It's still horrible. Microplastics are absolutely everywhere, unfortunately, but at least it would be contained to that mulch basin. And that way, ideally, you could be picking it out as well. And that's where flushing your system about once a year using that threaded union is going to be a really great way to prevent any sort of clogs or buildup of things such as microplastics or lint.
Also, just Liz, in case you didn't know this too, fun fact, they do create, there's like this new creation of like bags that you could put those clothing items in that'll prevent the microplastics from actually going into the water system. And they're called filter bags for laundry, if you guys want to look that up. But I saw that recently and I was like, that's a really good invention.
Thanks. So it looks like I'm seeing a few questions about the laundry soaps. And so I'll just list off and read aloud a few of the soaps that we do recommend. Again, these are things that do not include large amounts of sodium, chlorine, or boron. I will say that some of these soaps, such as Ecos, have started to integrate, I think it is small amounts of sodium. I still use it and my plants are doing well, but Oasis, Ecos, Vasca are all really great alternatives to your normal detergents. There's also Ozone laundry detergent, or things like Soap Nuts or Wonder Balls for a really eco-groovy organic version of laundry detergent. And I would say you can purchase most of these things at like your local health food store or community market, Whole Foods. Ironically, Costco sells Ecos. It's either Ecos or Oasis, so you can be buying them in bulk as well.
And we'll send you that list in email too if you didn't catch all that.
Yeah, thank you. It looks like somebody mentions that they couldn't find the brass valve anywhere in person. I'd be curious if you had checked out Wyatt Irrigation. I don't know for certain if they have the brass valve, but online is definitely a great resource as well. So thank you for mentioning that. And
compared to like places like Friedman's, Wyatt definitely has like a more diverse selection of options, like very specific things and fits and types of material and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that three-way brass valve is probably going to be the most or the most expensive component of your system too, maybe about $50.
Kelly and Chris, did you guys want to unmute again? Go ahead.
Am I on?
Yep.
I know we only talked about the washer machine, but what about showers and stuff like that? When you've got ABS under the house, are you able to? You can't put a valve, and you're not going to go into your house and do all that. So, were you just talking about washer machines today, or is there another way to talk about for showers and you know, sinks and stuff like that?
Yeah. So for today, I was only focusing on the laundry to landscape system. A shower to flower system, diverting that shower water to your landscape, is an amazing opportunity too. Most people are using quite a bit of water in your shower. And so it's pretty much the same concept, though you would require a plumber and you usually would require a permit as well, because you need to be making small changes in your plumbing. There are some designs that do actually include, it's not a three-way brass valve, but it is a valve that will allow you to divert it to the landscape or to the sewer or your septic, wherever it was originally going. I don't have the skill set to talk about it in great lengths, but it is possible, and a shower to flower system is amazing. And you can even use that if you're on the second floor, and there you just have more gravity working in your favor. And the other thing with that is you usually just have to design, you have to usually over design for a shower to flower system. So even if you were just 2 people, but you have 4 bedrooms, you have to design a system for 4 bedrooms, which means you are going to be watering a pretty large area. And that's just California plumbing code. Within the Graywater master handout that we're going to send, it'll talk briefly about a laundry to landscape system as well. And in our contract referrals list, we actually have experts who have installed laundry to landscape systems through Daily X workshops. So hopefully
shower to flower, right, Liz? Shower to flower landscape.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I did also just include a link from our partner, Laura Allen, of an example of a shower to flower system as well, if you guys wanted to take a look at that.
Nice, thank you. I would certainly emphasize that folks check out Graywater Action as an additional resource. They actually also have some pre-recorded videos that walk you through how to do a design, how to do a calculation of your mulch basin size. So we'll be sure to link those in our follow-up resource. And again, one of the co-founders, Laura Allen, is somebody that we partner closely with, and we actually have had presentations with in the past, and hopefully we'll be bringing out again in the very near future to be able to talk about how to actually install these systems on your own. So stay tuned for more. We have Graywater is of great interest right now, and really we're here today because we had so many community members reach out and express interest. So thank you for sharing your voice.
Liz, we did get another question from Michelle asking about how dangerous it is for gray water to go directly into the ground without a mulch basin. I have a couple of assumptions, but not an exact answer if you want to take a first stab at it.
I would love to hear your assumptions.
Well, I am assuming that we put mulch in the basin. Just one reason that comes out of my mind instantly is, we never want to have just pools of water in Sonoma County because we have a mosquito problem, right? So anywhere where there's just like water flooding and pooling pretty often could like lead to problems with like mosquitoes and things like that. But the idea of having mulch in the basin just allows for that water to like, it's sitting there for a little while. It's going to absorb pretty slowly. In Sonoma County, we also have a lot of clay soils too. So if you have that much water like rushing out into your landscape going straight onto a clay soil, it's not really going to absorb either. So is having mulch part of the permitted process, Liz? Like, do you have to have mulch in the basin?
I don't think it's actually a requirement, but you hit it on the head with it is illegal for it to pool or pond. And so depending on your soil absorption rate, for the most part, unless you have a really sandy soil, that gray water is going to be sitting for a small period of time. And so technically that is illegal, and mulch is just a phenomenal resource to move that water and really slow it and sink it on your site. Tracy and Aaron agreed. Where's our local entrepreneur to start producing diverter valves?
Well, we'll make a note of that. Diverter valve is the hang up right now. So we'll try to find a spot that has them for you guys and direct you there.
Yeah, I really appreciate that feedback that we haven't been able to find a local source. So we'll do a little bit of research on our end and hopefully we can find something. All right, what other questions do folks have?
Michelle, you have another question? Go ahead and unmute.
All right.
Just as a follow-up, I was listening to the presentation by Laura Allen that was sent in the resources along with the RSVP, and I thought she had mentioned something about the mulch also filtering, but it sounds like that's not a big emphasis. But
yeah, I think to a degree it would filter. Maybe for that microplastics question, it would filter it to a degree, but in reality, there's not that much that is being filtered once it gets out to your landscape.
Okay.
Yeah. In a larger scale, mulch certainly does help to filter things.
Okay.
Leslie, you're muted.
You're muted.
Classic.
Okay, cool. So I just did sheet mulch, and I had a guy, but he didn't quite finish the job. So I was wondering if I could get also a resource from you guys of a gardener kind of person who is familiar with sheet mulching.
Yeah, absolutely. That will also be in our contract referrals list as well. But depending on the size of your site, I'm not sure if these folks would be helpful. So maybe we can talk offline and see what the remainder of your scope of work is. I've got a lot of familiarity with sheet mulching, and Michelle, and thank you for bringing that up. Sheet mulching ? What even is that? So
yeah, maybe you could you email me?
Yeah, you got it. I'll just drop my email in the chat if you don't mind writing it down, so I don't forget to reach out.
Okay. And then is 7th generation soap okay for the dishwasher?
Dishwasher or washing machine?
Washing machine.
As far as I know it is, but not having a container in front of me to read the ingredients, I can't say for certain. So
okay.
Chlorine, boron, and sodium. Avoid at all costs.
Avoid sodium and boron. Okay. Yeah. And then also about lawns, I heard someone else mention lawns. you know, I inherited this little lawn and I actually like putting my feet on it, and I have breakfast out there and I put my feet on the ground, and every time I'm on it, I'm really grateful, but I also feel guilty about watering it. Could we also, do you have any providers that, you know, when you can think of, well, when I do transfer my lawn or let it go or reduce it, what might be good ideas?
Yeah, I think we could provide a little bit more detail in the follow-up email, but just off the top of my head, a time lawn is a really cool alternative for something that's soft. You're going to need to water basically anything that you plant. You're going to need to water it up front in order for it to get established, but a woolly time lawn is fantastic. Diamondia is a cool plant as well, but I'm pretty sure somebody recently told me that it's toxic to dogs, so that might be a questionable feature of yours. We can do a little bit more research to figure out what some low water use lawn alternatives are. And we can send
Okay, and could you spell out, please, those two things you just mentioned? I think you meant timer, but then the other one would be great.
Yeah, I'll drop that in the chat for you.
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, no problem, Leslie. Oh, nice. Okay, so Serena answered it, but we can answer in more detail what sheet mulching is. So sheet mulching is a process of composting your lawn in place. And so essentially what that means is, we like to say it's a 1, 2, 3 process. So it's 1 inch of compost, 2 layers of cardboard, and 3 inches of mulch to decompose that lawn in place. Some people also do cardboard first and then compost. We're still trying to figure out what makes the most sense. But again, you're decomposing your lawn in place, you're building up your soil health, and you're keeping water on site. That's the biggest, one of the biggest benefits of having mulch is, instead of kind of traditional developments where you've got concrete everywhere or you've got a lawn, you're basically sending all of the water that hits your landscape off into the street. There's this beautiful graphic from OAC, I believe, and it's a graphic of a traditional landscape with different architecture, and it says, pipe it, pave it, pollute it, versus like a food forest, a mulch landscape that says, slow it, spread it, sink it. So sheet mulching is just an amazing opportunity to reuse resources, again, decompose your lawn in place, build up soil health, and keep water on your site for all of your plants. And it is something that you can also plant directly into, either immediately or after the fact. We have a number of resources on our website. We've got a few pre-recordings for landscape transformations. And again, if you are in the city of Petaluma, the city of Petaluma offers all of the free sheet mulching supplies that you need, up to, I want to say, like 1,500 square feet for residential. Mulch is better than decomposed granite, ? Than landscaping rock. So my argument here would be, nice, thank you, Serena, would be the energy it takes to mine a lot of rocks or decomposed granite is going to be pretty destructive. And then of course the fossil fuels to transport from A to B to C to Z. So mulch is usually a very locally sourced resource. We tend to use grab and grow soil products, but depending where you're at, there might be distributors who are closer to you. And if you are interested in adopting this, anybody on this call, but especially you, Michelle, please feel free to reach out personally and we can talk through all of the different design elements and considerations to make if you're looking to sheet mulch. And I forgot to even mention that this process sometimes will also help with any sort of weed pressure that you have, assuming that you don't have really vigorous and resilient weeds such as crabgrass or Bermuda grass. This is a good solution for friendlier weeds.
Yeah, Michelle, the link I just sent for the drought resources webpage, the whole first section of that webpage is dedicated to transforming your landscape. So there's a lot of previously recorded webinars and resources there as well, if you want to look at that. Tracy and Aaron, did you guys want to unmute?
I kind of forgot what the question was, but I guess what I was going to say is that we have sheet mulched our front yard. There's no lawn left. You know, there was a lawn when we moved in here. And we have 2 apple trees and a peach tree planted in that area. And it just has an arbor mulch on the top of it. So that's kind of what you see. In the back, we sheet mulched our lawn back there too, but that's got like kind of a decorative, like a more decorative bark on top of it. And also our house, we've lived here for a few years, but we had a flooding problem when we moved in because the lot slopes to the back, and we flooded back there because it doesn't drain to the street because it slopes backwards. So I also have put a French drain in along the side and a couple sump pumps back there just to move the water forward in times of flash flooding that we sometimes get. We haven't had to worry about that this year. We worry about the last things I had in my mind. I forgot how I was going to frame that as a question, so I'm just sharing, I guess.
I like that. You're always open for sharing and storytelling, so thank you. Another thing worth mentioning that comes to mind when we're talking about sheet mulching, weed suppression, and removing your lawn, we would never advocate for weed fabric. Just to put that out there, if we're talking about microplastics or reusing resources and conserving things, we really do not recommend weed fabric. It is something that breaks down really poorly over time. I'm not even sure if you could say it actually breaks down. It just it breaks down into a million little pieces. And one of the biggest issues is that it actually will suffocate your soil. It's not actually contributing to any sort of soil health. And I think oftentimes we are working with people, or we're talking with people who have they're either bought a property or they're renting a property and they have inherited just landscape fabric everywhere. So I would say if you have the opportunity to remove that landscape fabric and sheet mulch using compost, cardboard, and mulch, you're going to have good success at rebuilding that soil health. So I just wanted to make mention of that.
We've got 2 more minutes before we wrap things up. Did anybody have any last minute questions or comments they wanted to share? Go, Chris, go.
For the sheet mulching, I'm up in Santa Rosa, and I saw in your picture you had like a big roll of cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would be a lot easier than going to Costco and breaking boxes up and doing all that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any place where you can just buy rolls of that cardboard like that?
As a matter of fact, there is a place, and that's going to be Grab and Grow Soil Products. They're off of Llano Road in Santa Rosa. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, they are fantastic. If you've got a truck and can put it in your own truck, or even like a Suburban or a SUV, you can load it up yourself. Ironically, it's going to be one of the more expensive components of your sheet mulching process, but it is well worth it. But that you bring up a great point that you can absolutely recycle materials, go to big box stores, Costco, furniture stores, bike stores even, and you can definitely grab big boxes and kind of.
How much do you need? Because I bought a big roll.
Oh, nice. Connections. Chris, how much do you need?
Are you in Santa Rosa?
Sebastopol.
Close. Yeah, well, I've got a big backyard and we're going to sheet mulch and everything. So it's going to get a big roll. So
Okay.
let's talk.
Yeah, there we go. Maybe
Sweet deal.
Yeah.
Connect you guys.
I'll give
My
you my
wife's going, what?
I'll give you my phone number if you want.
Oh, nice.
Great.
It's area code 949.
Wait. Sorry, this is being recorded. It's going on our YouTube channel. Maybe let's do it in the chat so it's not going.
All right. Just put it down in this thing.
Right on.
The enthusiasm.
Hey, is that film in person or online on July 1st?
Oh, that's an online Zoom opportunity. So it'll be a 1-hour showing of the film and then a conversation afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Very exciting. This is what makes the meeting so fun, and what I miss so deeply about being in person. It's these connections, the ability to share stories, talk to people about issues or lessons that you've learned, and exchange of resources. So I've loved the energy that you've all brought here today and the questions. Please keep them coming. Again, we will be sending a follow-up email with all of these resources, our contact information, and do not ever hesitate to reach out to us, even just to say hi. I really miss human interaction. So thank you for being here. It was really nice to see everybody's face. I hope you all learned something new.
Thank you, Liz and Serena and Daily Acts. You guys rock.
You too, Leslie, and everybody else on the call. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank
Bye.
you, Tracy and Aaron. Take care, everybody. Good luck.
Nice meeting you. Hi.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yeah, until next time.